last time. It's all yours.
Thanks. Okay, welcome everybody. This is Mark Matheny, and this is the Continuity and Outreach Subcommittee meeting. It is 3:06 on February the 9th. Let's call the meeting to order and start moving forward. Bill, do we need to do an official roll call? Do you want to look at participants? And
Yeah, no, I've been able to capture everybody that's here. As it turns out, we don't necessarily have a quorum of our membership, but we do have representation, I believe, from every membership council and the major jurisdiction committee in one way or another. So that's a good thing.
brilliant. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so I have been able to capture everybody here. If you're not here, speak now or forever hold your peace and we'll take you off the list. But looks like I've been able to capture all of that and go from there.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm trying to scroll your agenda. It's not working. So announcements, change to the agenda. I'll open that up if anybody has any announcements or change to the agenda. I can't imagine there would be, but it's on the list, so we're gonna ask. Okay, we'll move on to 4. Review and approval of minutes from the previous meeting. So once again, we basically don't technically have a quorum. The only way we could actually approve the previous meetings was with a quorum. So has anybody reviewed the previous minutes and has any information or questions or comments one way or another on them?
No changes.
Okay, thank you. I'll move on. So we had both August and September. There were no meeting minutes from September, as it obviously says. So item 5, old and new business. We'd like to have the meetings on the first Wednesday of the even months. That's what we've had in the past. We've had for the last maybe year, 18, well, probably 2 years now. And it seems to work pretty well. And we'd like to kind of keep that up. Obviously, that really only makes, roughly 6 meetings-ish. And 2 of them are not going to be on that because we're going to meet in Rochester. And I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in March. And then, of course, in September, early ABM in Louisville. Right, everybody got that? Louisville. And if you go onto their Chamber of Commerce, they have a sign that helps you pronounce the different ways of pronouncing it. Okay, everybody good with roughly that timing?
Are those 2 extra meetings, or will they replace either April, August, or October?
Yeah, so I can. Great question, thank you. I think we'll do the April. And what we're going to do with March, and we've talked about this a little bit when we were in Pittsburgh at the ABM there, we had a formal meeting that Saturday. But because it's kind of in the middle of the month, what we're looking at, and we're still working through the specific details, is we want to just do kind of a meet and greet or an open reception or something like that for anybody who participates in the CNO. And really just have more of an open conversation. Bill said he was going to get a couple of kegs and some New York strips, but we have to work through the details on that. But yeah, so the March meeting is actually, we had built this agenda before we kind of talked through what that'll look like. And so that March meeting is really going to be kind of an open reception. And it may actually lead right into dinner, depending on what our dinner relationship is, because, every city has its different nuances about how easy it is to get to food. And apparently Rochester in the middle of winter isn't the most easily to accommodate large groups.
Hey, Mark, so we have some information on that. We can talk about it shortly.
Okay.
But yeah, I think Judy, to kind of wrap around what you're asking, obviously March and September are not even months. but so March is coming up, and that was what the intent was on the agenda item. March is coming up, obviously, in Rochester. Not necessarily going to have a formal meeting there unless the group feels they need to. And there's accommodations for that if need be. But then a potential dinner, meet and greet, we do have info on that. And September will be a work in progress as well.
This is Sam, just a quick FYI on that. For the MJC, we were talking with Corey Robley. We were going to formally meet on that Saturday night, and that would open up our Sunday morning so we can attend some of the membership council meetings.
Oh, that's fantastic. What a
Yeah.
great idea.
What time is your meeting on Sam?
Tentatively 6:30, because yeah, it's hard from the West Coasters to get into Rochester in a timely fashion. And I think we're all going to land around 4:30 p.m. So we said 6:30 p.m. on Saturday. We would meet. Corey's going to try and figure out how we can eat and meet at the same time. So we'll figure that part out.
Well, if we have any leftovers, we'll be glad to share them with you.
You're a good man.
Yeah, I mean, Mark, yeah, this is Tim Deal.
Yeah.
Like I said, I know we've been in discussions, you were at our last meeting, so we've kind of cleaned those up a little bit. The fire service is going to start meeting at 2:00 on Saturday beforehand, so we can continue over. But then, yeah, we're looking forward to being part of that dinner later on that evening with the building as usual.
Terrific. If you bring a red Solo cup, we'll give you refills.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, 5.2, a review discussion of C&O Charter. So we are currently, we have a task group through Building Membership Council. We have a task group that's working on really evaluating all of our charters and any of our driving factors, including, you know, some of the CP9, which is actually a driving factor, and 7, which talks about all committees on how that works. And so we're currently doing that. We're going to meet, this committee of 3 is going to meet again probably next week, probably another time after that, and then hopefully be able to have basically a report to give to the Building Membership Council on Sunday at the Rochester meeting. We're going to kind of go through any adjustments that we would like to see. As we're looking through it, we noticed that, you know, there's some pretty outdated stuff. And so some of it may be changing things into the way that we would currently see that we're operating. Some of it is purely just updating items that were made from day one, or maybe in 2004 or something like that, that just need to get updated as far as that goes. So there is a committee doing that right now. And I say that because it's a good opportunity that your other membership councils might be interested in doing that as well. It's pretty straightforward. I think it's pretty simple to do. And so that may help just do an update. There's some wording in there, the charter overall, to kind of evaluate things on a I don't know that it actually says annual basis, but it does say a regular basis. So I just throw that out there. If anybody's done that or have any input on that. I know emerging leaders got into that a little bit early before we did. And they've been helping out. They've actually participated in one of the very brief meetings that we had. Anybody got any take on that or any input?
Mark, so what you're talking about obviously is the BMC Charter, and just trying to get both these up at once. There's some just So like I said, what you were talking about is the review of the BMC charter for some housekeeping items and maybe some major change items that they're going through. And obviously the emerging leaders have had some input on that with our group, and that will be a task that the Building Membership Council has taken up. Really, the agenda item for today was for the continuity and outreach people who are here. Again, there's only technically 6 members of the committee, and we don't include the chair and the vice chair of the various membership councils as committee members. It would just get too monotonous. There's only 13 members that constitute the continuity and outreach group, and the various liaisons back and forth to and from each committee. And this is the opportunity to get some stuff done. We had formed a charter way back in 4 or 5 years ago when this group was brought together through Chris Young. If some of you remember Chris Young, he is the one who pulled together a chair, vice chair group, and this evolved into this continuity and outreach. So we formed a charter. So the charter that's in front of you on the left, I believe, just like you to take a look at it. And number one, confirm, we didn't really do that with the roster, although it's attached to the meeting invite, whom the liaisons are. You can see the current continuity and outreach committee on the left, the 13 people in that chart, and it reflects the same over in the item on the right, which is the next agenda item for this group, to talk about the reporting structure, what this group is all about and what we do. So it really was about more taking the time to look at the continuity and outreach subcommittee charter, as well as the reporting structure, and make sure that this committee is doing, number one, what they were charged to do, what their charter was from the original time, and to what's happening now, how we report out on the various activities of what's happening. It's clearly not a mandate that we do it this way. It was just the way it was, and we were hoping to get some input from some of the new people on the committee as to should we change the charter, should we change the reporting structure. That's something that we were hoping to get some input on, if any, from the members, new, old, and carryover.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Anybody have any input from the group we do have? No, we got a couple of people in here that we have some great minds here. We've also got a couple of people who are relatively new, may not even have a handle as to what this is all about yet. So that's fine as well.
Hey, Mark, it's Kevin Gore. I was involved in the discussion for the charter. We did not look at the C&O charter
Sure.
during that meeting. I think we have another meeting scheduled coming up here soon. And hopefully we can include that in the discussions.
Yeah, so kind of two separate pieces, really. The one that we're doing that I mentioned earlier, really about the BMC, and then so that's one we want you in there. Don't want to get that one mixed up with the specific C&O charter itself.
Yeah, the Building Membership Council charter review task is just that. And this agenda item, and Mark kind of crossed it over, which is fine, but you won't need to look at that from the Building Membership Council. This is really more for the people that are on this call, on this committee, to make sure that you know what you're getting into or what you've gotten into. And just from the big picture standpoint, the concept of this whole committee is to have just that continuity and outreach, the continuity of the various people that come and go throughout the different terms that you serve on your membership councils and the major jurisdiction committee, and how we communicate with each other. This certainly has been a good subcommittee of people for communication, and we've done a pretty good job over the last few years on just keeping the information that's happening across each membership council and major jurisdiction committee relevant to the other committees, and that's the liaison idea, right? But having that continuity excuse me, kind of jives with the matrix that we've talked about and that we will talk about going forward as we document in this world today. We're all finding that we need to justify why we exist, and this is the matrix. This is this subcommittee. So you have in front of you the charter, and then next the reporting structure, the next agenda item. I would just, for the sake of moving forward, Mark, it is it is important that each of the subcommittee members get a chance to review this and comment if need be, and no need to make a motion to approve or anything like that. But if there are ideas to change what we do, then, that always can be put on the table for discussion. But this is the time in the agenda where it's out there for that kind of discussion. Looks like as it turns out, JC has joined us.
Welcome.
So that does not give us, no, I'm sorry, my bad. That still does not give us a quorum. Yeah, correct, it does not.
Okay.
Yeah, it does not.
All right. I'm going to just keep talking here, and if anybody wants to interrupt, please do. One of the other items with that item, also in kind of looking at this in 2022, after a couple of years of running, of having this up and running, we also discussed and we'd like to have basically a co-chair be part of this CNO committee. And we'd like that co-chair to come obviously from a separate committee. And so we're not just having it through the BMC. So any of the other membership councils or major jurisdictions that are interested in being part of that, you can jump up right now, or you can shoot me an email and let me know. We'd certainly like to get input and have this kind of a more well-rounded piece with a co-chair from one of the other membership councils. So keep that in mind. I'm going to hit on a couple of other items. One of them, we've kind of had a conversation about, this is basically about membership councils, and really our task is to keep that communication of membership councils going and keeping, basically our purpose. But one of the things that has come up is there potential for other stakeholders, other groups, other associations that really are integral to our purpose, to ICC, to the membership councils that might be beneficial to be on this. And honestly, I don't know what that looks like, whether they're part of the matrix, whether we create a separate matrix or whatever. But as we're getting better, and we're doing quite well of kind of interacting with each other and identifying what everybody's doing, we just wanted to open up that conversation. Is there an opportunity, or there's a reason to or not to include other groups that might be beneficial? Anybody got any input on that?
My question is, Tim Deal again. Question is, has anybody, what other groups have reached out, if any? And I guess that's the question of what groups would we think of that would benefit, all the councils in an exchange of information. And so that's more of a curiosity question than it is anything. And then just thinking out loud at the same time. And I guess keeping it in the vein of ICC partners, where are we at with that? So I know evaluation services, we all kind of deal with them at some point, whether it's getting the information, looking at the information, or reviewing what they're evaluating. And I guess maybe I think that could be a possibility. But I'm just here again, curious if anybody has reached out or what groups are we thinking about?
Yeah, and that's exactly kind of the direction that I'm thinking. And so I don't know that anybody has specifically said, I want to be part of this CNO or organizations, but in reality, it's still under the umbrella or very close to the drip line of that umbrella of ICC and of what we're doing, right? And you mentioned ES, evaluation services, maybe NTA, maybe, where we're dealing with component construction, where we're dealing with resiliency and how that works within our built environment. And, and those are, is it advantageous to have them on this bi-monthly meeting, or do we create something where we reach out to them, right? I mean, within BMC, we work on the best practices, we work on innovation. Part of our task is to reach out and find the people that are doing these things and then be able to share that with everybody. So maybe that's doing it. We just haven't done it enough at this point. But so I just wanted to see if kind of this is the time or the venue for that kind of thing.
This is John, JC. I'm kind of from the emerging leaders side of the camp. I think a lot of times it is good, kind of what Mark just mentioned, is just to see what other groups are doing. A lot of times we're just kind of in our own silos with our kind of groups, and we don't really know. I know Rick's also on here. We had an idea of some documentation we should put out, and then we found out 2 weeks later, I guess ICC membership had already released something. And we were like, well, we spent all this time getting all this information together, and then they put something out, and we were like, whoa, had we known, we could have, put our efforts towards something else to do something or collaborate with what they were doing. So especially, a lot of people that we get in, especially on emerging leaders, like I said, they're just learning this side of the house. So for us, any outreach is better than no outreach, because we don't know, because, even some of us that haven't even been in it a lot, we don't know where always to send people. So I'd be willing to help wherever I can on that about outreach, because a lot of times we are, running into the same issues or trying to solve the same problems. And, if we know that another group's working on it, we don't mind, tag teaming, kind of splitting up some of those responsibilities, as to feel that we're kind of in a silo and we're kind of not working against each other, but we're like, man, had we known that, we would have helped, or we would have assisted with that, or we would have been able to give some other insight. So.
And that's a perfect example of what really Chris Young kind of visioned the CNO doing, is being able to have that, but we have to know all the other components, right? So we know the membership councils that are doing that, and our matrix that we'll show here in a minute, is covering a lot of that once we update it and we get it all up and running. But that's kind of the idea. But like you said, there may be other components of ICC that are functioning in a similar fashion, and how do we know that? How do we find that? And should that be reported or identified on our matrix? I think it makes sense to. We just have to kind of think about what that, what that looks like actually. What does that formula look like, or where does it sit? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think you're right. That I think maybe, we don't want to mix up the matrix too much. And maybe that is that separate little pile matrix that kind of corresponds with the primary one, where we all keep our agendas up to date and say what we're working on, where we're going. But having those auxiliary, associations matrix, so we can kind of refer back to that also, would be beneficial. That way we're not putting too much information into that matrix, and then you're scrolling through that whole thing trying to find something and not finding it.
And one of the nice things, and many of you have probably dealt with this on like Sheets or Excel. You can create multiple sheets, multiple tabs within one. You create one and you duplicate it and you call it whatever else you want. That may be what that looks like. I hate to create a lot of pages out there for people to try to decipher, but maybe the matrix is the main page for the membership councils and MJC, and then the next one is these kind of associate or auxiliary organizations. I have to let spell check. fix auxiliary for me here. Hang on. All right, good. You know, and another part of that, beyond that piece is on the matrix itself is do we create a space, and this may answer my question as I'm talking out loud. Do we create a space for specific events, right? So we talk about everybody doing certain things, but as we're seeing, thanks, Bill. As we're seeing, you know, some of the things that we are doing are duplicating or repetitive. And the most obvious example I'll give is Building Safety Month, right? So we identify what a couple of different groups are doing in Building Safety Month, but now as we're evolving and progressing, does it actually make sense to have a Building Safety Month section, or maybe a Building Safety Month tab, where we can identify in 2019, 2020, 2022, what each different membership council is doing within Building Safety Month? And that's kind of the most obvious one. But, you know, there's other opportunities like, you know, the monthly coffee that's happening, and different times where we're doing videos. You know, we have like Learn Live. And I know that Learn Live is super fluid. Things are moving literally right up to the last moment. But you know, maybe there's something that tracks on all of that, and it doesn't have to be that one. But you know, there are some things that are repetitive and consistent, and I wonder if there's just another way to call those out, to bring those to the front. Or do we just like color code Building Safety Month, and everywhere in there you see it, and you know, green is Building Safety Month or so? I don't know, but just a thought on that, if there's a way to kind of organize that, if that makes any sense to anybody.
I think once again, we're into that separate page, because I know, you know, we're just now starting to think about Building Safety Month. You know, what are we going to be doing for it? You know, for the week that kind of deals with fire, although I think I want to get with you at some point and talk about fire and building the week before, but that's my own little personal thing. But yeah, and I think maybe that would be here again. You know, what is Emerging Leaders planning for Building Safety Month? Where are they fitting into this? You know, PMG, where are they fitting into this? You know, what do they have planned? Just so we can all kind of see what the other groups are doing and going, oh, that's a good idea. Maybe I want to incorporate that too.
Right.
I mean, you know, like I said, one of the things we do is, you know, we do a lot of tweets during Building Safety Month. You know, that's kind of where we work. You know, we do the same thing when, you know, it's Fire Prevention Week in October. We do the same kind of thing. So I think here again, having this central location where we can all go to gather and share information is the best benefit that we have going on. And the more we can utilize that and keep it easy to find, the better off we're going to be.
Tim and Sam, I agree that one central location where I can go and easily find that stuff. It's amazing how much is going on around the countryside that we don't know about. You know,
Yeah.
and West Coast, East Coast, however you want to say that, as long as it's simple and I can find it and I can see it quickly, life is good. And I'm like you. I look at that and say, wow, that's pretty cool. Maybe we do something like that out west or do whatever. But it's just a matter of seeing it. And if I can't see it, then we miss it, and you know, we're 2 months down the road and nothing happened.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. You know, one of the things that we put on the matrix is an expectation of time. Like, is that started? Is it in progress? And then when was it completed? It's really important to have that completed time. But as we get more and more things on there, and we leave those completed on that same front page, you know, does that give us the same benefit as we have if we have each jurisdiction over the last 3 years has 25 items and half of them are completed? Does it really still need to be on that front page, or can we roll that up, get all the jurisdictions kind of current, or council's kind of current things up, and that. So I think there's a little bit of housekeeping that goes along with that. We have to kind of figure out what that is. We don't want to lose that by any means, because it's important, because that's what we found when we first started this, is that we had stuff in 2015 that had been completed, but nobody promoted it. So nobody knew it was there. So then we just came back around.
I would suggest that it's not a little housekeeping, it's a lot of housekeeping. You know, I know I'm that guy as staff who is constantly saying to liaisons, please update the matrix. And I know you're all busy. I get it. You know, many of you know I was a code official for many years. I get it. But that's the only way this thing works, is if it gets updated. And inevitably what happens is staff ends up updating the matrix. But even as staff, we're limited into what really is happening within our own membership councils, you know. So it really is, if nothing else, that the new liaisons and or chairs take away from this is the real need to update the matrix regularly. Because if it is going to be a valid tool that people are going to use, it needs to be updated. And I do my best to update it when I get updates, but I just unfortunately don't get more than what's necessary to update it. So I'd encourage you, the liaisons, the chairs, the vice chairs on this call, to talk with your liaisons who really are on this committee for continuity and outreach, communication, as we've talked about. The matrix is the tool that gets us that, other than the obvious, talking here, talking on calls, talking before and after networking events when we're in person. But the matrix is the standard that we've kind of pointed to use as our reporting function. And it needs more than a little housekeeping. It needs a lot of housekeeping, unfortunately. But if everybody does their little bit, it really isn't that hard of a lift.
And so the next two pieces, point 3 and point 4, kind of lead into that conversation. You know, how do you update the matrix? And this is a question not to Bill, because Bill's he knows 100%, but to everybody else, basically, how do you do that? You know, you just saw it up on the screen there, and how do you fill something in, or how do you want to add something or update even a line item? Basically, that document lives in Bill's mind and on his computer. And
yeah, I mean, we've tried to make it a living document. We've tried to make it functional for people to go in and update it. Just that's proved to be challenging. So really the most effective way is, you know, it's in a PDF. It's available on at least the BMC webpage. Other web pages for the membership councils may or may not have it, but it's front and center on the Building Membership Council webpage. You can always go in and simply mark it up and send it to me, or send an email. Look, there's no exact science to updating this. It's a spreadsheet that has some pretty colors on it and some good information. The updating part of it is, you know, if it's just say, hey, Bill, go, maybe if we put line numbers in there, Bill, under line number 2, this is what you can add. Can you just add this for me? Yeah, I can do that. So again, we probably aren't real clear on that to some of the new people, or even the people who have been here from the beginning. But yeah, yeah. So I think just go in and print it, write it out, or simply open up an email and say, hey, under the ELMC, change this. Yeah, I've got to say, ELMC has been great. Certainly Judy and the Global have been very good. Respectfully to my own membership council, Building Membership Council, not so much, you know, but most of us are doing well. And look at it, hey, I know you're busy. Believe me, I've lived it, and I respect that. But if we can all just do a little bit of a lift, it would go a long way to help us out.
yeah, and ultimately that's what it is. It's a matter of just email Bill, email myself, and we'll get those updated. And that's how it happens.
Hey, Mark and Bill, this is Kevin Gore. I just have I guess a question/comment. I see that the matrix is 6 pages long. It's probably going to grow, right, as time moves on. Does it make sense to have, and I know, Mark, you said you didn't want to have a lot of pages out there of different documents. Does it make sense, though, to have a matrix for each year and put like all the 2021 stuff on the one matrix? to try to condense things down and make it more manageable for people to review and edit?
And that's a great point, and I appreciate you bringing that up, because that's kind of what I was getting at, is it maybe on completed items, because some things are continuous, right? And how do we classify the continuous ones from just the individual year ones? I don't know yet, but maybe to that same point is we identify the things that are completed and we put them onto like the next sheet within this sheet, the next tab. But you're absolutely right, because it will continue to grow and get almost unmanageable in its size. And we still want to have a track of when all these things were around. But we want that front sheet to really be the working on the most critical items.
I think initially, Kevin, that was the goal, the plan, to do it by year. However, we find that they are crossing over. Then, of course, COVID came and hopefully went by now. I know better. We've been tied up with other things. So these initiatives carry over from year to year, and you don't want to lose that. So it might get a little monotonous trying. So, I mean, look, I can try to manipulate the data, or frankly, if anybody wants to try to manipulate it in a better format, I'm not opposed to any of that. I'm glad to share with you all the actual Excel part of it, so you can maybe try to manipulate it yourselves, or suggest to me to try to do so the same way. It just gets challenging when we're crossing over initiatives and years. If there's a better format, though, I'm all ears. Carl, I think, had his hand up. Mark.
Yeah, Carl.
Hey, good conversation today. Just wanted to jump in really quick and offer up a couple ideas to maybe find ways to maximize our time together, because I know everybody's schedules are super important. We had a lot of discussion about bandwidth, both for our members, which are most important, and also our staff as well. So one of the things I was going to recommend is that, in terms of this group getting together, is maybe that we facilitate a little bit more efficient way to be able to share information and get out what's important, because I think the genesis of this group, Mark, from your all standpoint, was to make sure that we're exchanging information and coordinating efforts across the MC spectrum here, right? So, I would just throw this out for consideration, but would say that, maybe a quick 2 to 3 minute update from each of the MC representatives, whoever it might be. So, I see that I think Christine Reed was on earlier. She might still be on. She's the chair of the Fire Service Membership Council. Tim Deal is both our liaison to this group as well as our vice chair. And then I'm usually on too. So between the three of us, we'd be able to provide an update on a rotating basis, depending on who was able to make it, and blow through those. And then maybe feature an MC, give them an opportunity or somebody to be able to bring up kind of a hot topic that's in front of the MCs, whether it be global, fire, building, whoever, it might be a good topic of the day, and rotate that one around. And then maybe choose an issue or two to really dig in on based on the matrix or whatever the, we're trying to quantify some things in the matrix to push on, and maybe we can leverage the matrix to be able to pull some stuff out and be like, all right, this seems to be a common issue we all agree on that needs attention across, our membership councils and across the code council, apparently. So why don't we just dig in on those and spend a little bit of time either problem solving or figuring out ways to move those issues forward. So I don't know if that helps at all. I mean, it was just an observation that I had kind of sitting here, listening to the conversation, having participated a number of times. But I mean, we definitely need this coordination group. There's a huge role that it can play, and that might be a way to move it forward. But then we also don't want to forget about the networking aspects of this particular group too, and some of the social things that we get to do in person at the code hearings and the annual conference. So I just offer that up for your consideration. I appreciate the opportunity to comment, and happy to help with any or all of that if that's something that the group wanted to move on.
Yeah, no, that's great input. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the view from the outside, because I'm always on the inside, so I don't see it from. I really see kind of the micro piece, even as just being a liaison, as opposed to kind of the macro view of it. So that's great stuff. And I think that will be beneficial. And we try to do that update, and we've got 14 minutes left, and item number 6 is those updates. So you guys are gonna have to fly. But yeah, no, I really think there's a way to kind of blend that in there. It's good input.
For sure. Well, thanks for the opportunity to do that, and let me know how I can help.
And Bill's got his hand up.
Yeah, no, Mark, before, I know you want to get into the updates and, you can save X amount of time for that. Maybe if it's fair to everybody to, before we start trying to jam out of here, once the updates start going, because Carl is on, and relative to the meet and greet, that's item number 7.
Yeah.
Here on the agenda. So as it turns out, in Rochester, that all of you may or may not be there. I'm assuming most of you will be, as will I. However, I'm not getting in until midnight on Saturday. I have an event I need to be at. And traditionally, for those of you that don't know, it started as Building Membership Council, Fire Service Membership Council, dinner fellowship event. We've kind of, over the past couple of years, included all of the membership councils and the major jurisdiction committee to this kind of dinner event, and that happened. So in Rochester, it looks like we have 2 things. One, we can, if this group chooses to, have a meeting roughly around 3 o'clock is when we can get the room until about 5 o'clock. We certainly can do that if this group chooses. So you probably should talk about that. But just as importantly, and probably more importantly, why I brought it up now, before we really start crashing out of here, is there is a place that we've identified as to go to, and Carl is here. Carl will coordinate that because I won't be there, or we typically would have done it together, but Carl it's on him at this point. And I think he could share a little bit of information. And I think we just maybe want to push that out to the membership councils. It is a little bit limited this time because I think we can only take up to 50 people. I'm not sure we'll even get there, but yeah, if Carl could share a few items, if you feel you guys are ready, Carl, that would be helpful, I think.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. And I was looking to just see if Ed had come on, because I know he's at the Region 3 meeting. So the real brief update is that we're looking at a couple different options. The first one is a barbecue restaurant that's close by the convention center and the hotel. As Bill said, the room that they've got can hold up to 50. Food and drink packages and those kinds of things. We'll handle all the details on that, and it would, of course, be sponsored by the membership council budget from the ICC. So we're looking at that as an option. There's also another option at the Hyatt Hotel, which is the headquarters hotel for the committee action hearings. We're going to kind of compare the two between Bill and I and Ed Lazinski, come up with maybe best option, both from a budget standpoint and the ability to accommodate folks. So just something to be aware of, and we're going to have more information coming out here in the next week or so. Does that help, Bill?
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think we need to, like you said, within the next week or so, we need to kind of commit one way or another so we don't lose one or the other. So just kind of keep that on your radar as you plan your travel, if you already haven't done it. But I think the timing works out such that most people will be in there by Saturday evening, subject to what their travel restrictions may be. And then, by the end of this meeting here, we should decide if we in fact want to have, if you do want to have a meeting, a formal meeting, or simply just meet for dinner. But I'll just leave that to you. So yeah, so that's where that is, Mark. And if you wanted to go back, I know I'm certainly here to answer questions on that, but really the other 2 items before you get to the report would be the building safety month. I don't know, was there something that you wanted to bring up on that, on item 5.5?
Not necessarily, beyond the fact that, you probably all have been contacted by Hope, or a portion of your council has been contacted, and just, be sure something's going on with that. They do videos. You probably have had to already do the video at this point. And just, once again, does it make sense to, kind of consolidate some of these multiple reoccurring events onto a sheet or onto this sheet? So not too much with that. And then on point 6, we talk about the joint events and collaborations. Just as a reminder, and Tim, you already brought that up, we definitely, fire and building want to do that. We want to do that cross-wise. I saw Global's soft skills. Everybody probably got that. Look like a good mix of people who are going to be in that. And anytime those kind of things come up, as we're thinking through to the end of the year, these opportunities, just, we put that now, these joint events on top of that matrix. It's on the very top of the sheet. So we just like to keep up to date with that. It's a good place to look and see if somebody's doing something you want to be involved with, or if you need to reach out to somebody and say, hey, we'd like somebody else to be part of this. Or if there's something we have an idea on, reach out to us, Bill and I, and let us know, and we'll include that on there. And that's what I have for that part. Would like to go through the reports and updates with the time we have left. I'll be super brief on the BMC, just like everybody else. We're kind of starting a new year and trying to get that up and running. We've got the raise the profile. We basically have new chairs and co-chairs for all of our subcommittees. Our key subcommittees are raise the profile. This one, continuity and outreach, and then community building and best practices. And everybody's rolling real heavily on that. We're excited about where everything's going with that. So a lot of momentum starting early in the year, and we just want to keep that momentum and go strong all the way through. So, Fire, would you guys like to give an update?
I don't know if Christine wants to jump in or not, but yeah, we're Fire is pretty much the same boat. We're getting all our committees. We have a lot of new members, so we're getting all those rosters taken care of and filled. Looking forward to a couple projects coming up as far as in public information and awareness. Of course, you have the incidents with Philadelphia and the Bronx that Carl participated on. So we have those informations going out. The Colorado wildfires, another hot topic. So a lot of current events that we're trying to stay on top of and make sure that our members are aware of, as well as restarting and getting a better initiative on the emerging trends and issues that are facing the fire service. But again, looking forward to we have our meeting here next week, and then looking forward to the March in-person meeting hybrid in Rochester.
Very good, thank you. BMG. Not sure we have Doug. You still on here? Can you chime in on that maybe?
Yeah, I missed the last PMG meeting, so I'm sorry I can't really chime in on it.
Okay. They're doing great work and intend to keep doing great work.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of work.
Good, thank you. ELMC, how you guys doing?
Doing great. Thanks for asking. One of the things we wanted to get out to the CNO was updating on our Vote for Your Codes campaign. Obviously, with the hearings coming up here in March and April, it's a pretty big effort. I don't know if everybody's familiar with the Vote for Your Codes campaign, but back in 2019 in Vegas, we had all the membership count. There you go. There it is. There's the badge. All the membership councils had signed a cooperative agreement to work together as to engage everybody on these Vote for Your Codes. So for 2022, we're working on some goals, including a podcast for the ICC Pulse, videos on CDP access and voter validation process, so we can educate everybody on that. And then in-person education, obviously in Rochester and Louisville. Did I get it right? And one thing that we're looking to do is to get a commitment from the CNO to join us in our efforts to get this word out and advocate along with all the membership councils about the Vote for Your Codes campaign. And Bill, I have some documents I can send over to you, which outline the goals, and there's a letter also that you can send out to any chapters to get them to participate in the campaign. I'll send that over to you. Rick or JC, is there anything I missed on that if you want to just jump in real quick?
And this is Rick. Yeah, we're also in Rochester going to get a couple hours with Maddie, talk about the 2.0 program, how we can collaborate better with that program. We want to help her put some wheels under the mentorship mentee program. And JC is working on a strategy for using Pulse a little bit more effectively, particularly during Building Safety Month. And going back to what Kevin was talking about, along with that gray tsunami knocking down memberships or removing a lot of our members in ICC, it's also going to have, I think, a devastating effect when it comes to code development. All that institutional knowledge. This isn't a matter of hiring somebody and in a couple of years they get the job or are up to speed. These are people with decades of experience. And so a major focus of the Vote for Your Codes campaign is to burrow down to the grassroots of our organization to encourage veteran code officials to get those medium level or medium management, mid management, and new code officials to be part of the not just voting on CDP access from the home office, but to participate in development of codes, because that kind of experience is irreplaceable. And the second best time to get started on ramping up for that is now. The best time was maybe a couple of years ago or a few years ago. So I think it's an urgent need. Everybody on ELMC sees it as an urgent need.
Excellent. Thanks so much. And I totally agree. Global. Oh, is Jeff still here? Judy, you're here.
Hi guys, Jeff here. And Judy can chime in as well here. Look, we had our first meeting last week, a couple of weeks ago now. Look, I think the key for us and where I see this subcommittee is working is about that crossover. And I think JC's just left, but exactly that, making sure that we are not duplicating. Some of the things that we're doing continually, you already mentioned the soft skills webinars. We're looking at doing another 3 webinars through the year. That's a key thing. But internally through the council, a lot of the work we're doing is looking at our value proposition. What can the Global Membership Council bring to this? Because, yes, we've got a lot of US-based members. We've got a few international global members as well. So we've got to look at that crossover and what the value is to the ICC. We are starting to work with some other international organisations to try and bring that feedback in with the World Organisation of Building Officials. There's also the International Building Quality Centre, who are doing a lot of work out there in global codes. So we're just trying to bring that, that feedback in, and where the GMC can be of benefit to the ICC. We tend to get a lot of interest from the US-based members in some of the global stuff that's happening outside the country. And when you look at it, we're all doing the same thing, just different terminologies. We work in metric, you work in imperial, but the buildings are buildings. So essentially that's what we're doing. I think that matrix is a great idea. I think the future stuff should be prioritized on there so we don't duplicate. The historical stuff is good to go back. We can check that to make sure it hasn't been done, and we can just pick up those items if we're going to refresh it or rerun it. Because from a global perspective, as I said, we can always bring in a different perspective on all these things. We're all inventing the same wheel. It's just different color spokes. I don't know, Judy, do you want to add anything to that?
I would just add to say that we really do prioritize collaboration with the other membership councils, particularly in the webinars. So I think all of the webinars we've done to date, including the one that's coming up, we've reached out to the other membership councils and invited participation. So this soft skills webinar has members from the panelists from the Emerging Leaders Membership Council, as well as the Major Jurisdictions Committee, and panelists from other countries. So we will continue to prioritize that as we come up with the topics for the future webinars. And if people from other membership councils are interested in partnering with the Global Membership Council on a webinar, please let me know. There's been a lot of interest in fire safety topics, and I know that Rock Mung who's the liaison to the Fire Service Membership Council, will be following up there. But we'd love to have sort of a collaboration with the Fire Service Membership Council for one of the webinars. And then one of the things I'll just throw out there is that we've been trying to engage the membership, and maybe other membership councils have had the same challenge, but through establishing subcommittees or working groups, which we haven't had before. And we thought it would be a great opportunity to set up a couple of working groups. One about the value proposition, as Jeff mentioned, another one about planning some global activities or a global sort of track at the ABM. And we have not had a great response from people wanting to step up and volunteer, or, you know, that we hear comments from time to time, well, I'm not really sure what the Global Membership Council does, or how do I get more involved? And then we put this opportunity out there and people don't, they don't express interest, or nobody steps up. And maybe that's a topic for a different meeting, but if other membership councils have had similar struggles, I think, you know, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we could use some advice on this front about how to get people other than the governing committee members more engaged.
I believe everybody will agree with you to all of that. And just very briefly on one point that we might find this works is in relation to this is at the ABM. I just had a fantastic time talking with potential people, very many of who did sign up later to be part of one of the membership councils, depending on where their interests were. And, you know, honestly, and of course the COVID's been a big part of this, that one-on-one engagement was I think it was the main component. But then the next trick is, how do you, when you disengage from the one-on-one, the personal experience, how do you get everybody to stay engaged and on big blocks of time, of missing time? And sometimes maybe it's a matter of just finding the little pieces of engagement, right? Do you get the phone call, or, you know, nowadays video is so common, you know, is there a way to kind of reach out to the people who did engage initially and very quickly have a video with them and you know, and say, here's how we're going to get involved, and here's what we expect new people to do, and here's the pieces that I want you to do. I think there's a big part of that, and I think everybody suffers from that, and all of us with the great minds that are here and within all of our councils, you know, I think we should figure out how to make that work, and we might put that as a collaborative item on here, is how to increase that engagement. And sustainability, is anybody here?
Erica.
Yeah, this is Jerica. I don't think anybody else is on from sustainability.
Oh, great.
So we are actually having our first meeting of the year on Friday. So we'll be doing a lot of what the other councils are doing as far as coming up with new members for all of our subcommittees, or just updating that. And as Mark mentioned, Hope has probably recruited most of you to do Building Safety Month videos. And we're continuing with some of our advocacy efforts with like coffee with the SMC and that sort of thing. But otherwise, we're really just getting started this year.
Great. So I'm going to ask you on your coffee, because that's always a really good thing. A lot of people really enjoy that. Do you guys know where you're at throughout the year? I mean, do you plan that whole thing out, or do you plan a month at a time, or what do you guys look like schedule-wise?
Yeah, so it is every third Friday at a set time. And then what we're doing this year, which is different from previous years, is we've actually assigned some of our newer GC members a specific month, and they get to come up with the topic and what they want to talk about. So I think the topics are more decided on a monthly basis, but the time is the same.
Okay. Yeah, I asked that because, you know, if the topics were out there or a general topic, you know, that might be an opportunity for others to engage with that, and whether they're talking one-on-one or just kind of covering a broader piece.
Yeah, I like that suggestion a lot. I'll bring that up on Friday, because even if we could do like a 6-month lookout on topics, then we could engage some other
Right.
membership councils in that.
Terrific, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and we have Sam, right, for MJCs?
Thanks, Mark. Good, Jerk. I've sat in on a couple of your coffee conversations. And Judy, in response to that, those smaller groups, that is a good way of maintaining that connection, you know, that personal touch, rather than the large groups where it's more of a download or it's a training or something like that. It's nice having a combination of those, but it's like we go back to the matrix. It's nice when we see it, that I can get it on my calendar so I don't forget. And I know to sit in on the coffee at, you know, the third Thursday or whatever. And I know it's coming, but trying to hit it to the calendar is a tough call. That master calendar is very nice. Overall, for the MJC, when we start off each of the meetings, our next meeting is actually this coming Monday, the 14th. All are invited. You know, we've been talking a lot about the COVID responses across all the major jurisdictions. And right now, most of us, you know, as of a month ago, towards the highlight of Omicron and whatnot, most of us are around 15% plus out each week on staff. I mean, when you have 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6 staff out for COVID related reasons, plus your normal, you know, wear and tear and vacations, et cetera, you know, we're having about a third of our staff on average being out every week, and it's terrible. But that's across the board to all the major jurisdictions we've been talking to, and that affects, you know, productivity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's been a big challenge. Hopefully this stupid thing settles down and we get back to a more normal life here soon. With that, we've talked a lot about some of our responses on the COVID side of the house, in particular, keep an active look on the remote video inspections. Who's doing what? Some of the organizations still don't accept them. Most are. And most have to, because mainly just out of practicality, because one, they don't have enough staff, and two, a lot of people don't like going into individual homes. It's one thing going into a commercial structure, but going into residential apartments, that's a little bit tougher. So we've been keeping a close eye on that. Plus, quick updates on the Florida condo collapse. Everybody's very curious. As soon as that condo collapsed, within a week or two, I think everybody on the MJC, all of their councilmen, mayors, et cetera, however you want to use that word, were contacting the building officials in their jurisdiction saying, hey, what about us? You know, do we have any structures that are out there that could follow the same failure track? And so we've been watching that one very close, seeing what the outcome is going to be. Sounds like it's going to go into the overall maintenance codes, but it'll be interesting to see. MJC, we've also been tracking the pandemic task force, you know, trying to get heads up on their anticipated recommendations, you know, because what they recommend and whatnot, how to stay safe, et cetera, we're all trying to put into production. All of us have plastic, however you want to say it, screens up all across our own buildings. We feel like we're isolated cubicles inside our own big buildings. But the pandemic task force results we're watching closely. And you all mentioned the forest fires. You know, multiple states, and I'll use the word multiple major jurisdictions, are looking at adopting the WRI code. Right now, Nevada and California in particular, adopting it in a formal sense and seeing how it's going on. Because, you know, Nevada, Southern Nevada, where I'm at, you know, wildland interface, we don't have a lot other than up in one or two of the nearby mountainsides. Northern Nevada, oh no, different story. It's major wildland, as well as California. So WRI codes are key issues for us. In general, for the MJC for the year, still working hard on the best practices. You know, we team up with you all and with IAS, you know, for that coming up in Richmond at the ABM, and put on another presentation on overall best practices that we've seen. We need input on best practices. So please, when you see a best practice or hear about it, or you're doing a best practice, please let us know. There's a simple form to fill out, and we really got to encourage the international folks to reach out. At the last ABM, we had folks from Bahamas, we had folks from the Middle East give quick presentations on what they're doing. It's funny, no matter where you are in this world, a lot of these things are very similar, and a lot of the outcomes are very similar. But we need those best practices. So when you have great ideas, even if you give me the topic, we can help flesh it out and get those onto the presentation. Also looking at the overall voting guides. You know, several of the regions, Region 1, Region 2, Region 7, I believe, have pretty good voting guides, not direction, but just voting guides on the most popular code amendments coming up. And we need more of that to keep our members informed, and getting the membership informed, I think, is a great way of pulling them back in and getting them active. But on the voting guides, at least a smaller jurisdiction who may not have the ability to throw a lot of resource into researching all the amendments and whatnot, at least they can go to the voting guides and say, okay, here's what the majority of these folks are thinking. You know, whether that, and there's no direction on it. Take it as you will. But at least you can see what some of the other folks are thinking on the amendments, and yay or nay, and you can get more of an informed vote. That we've seen a lot of interest in, because it's the codes that affect all of our daily lives, and if we don't get good codes, it makes for a hard 3 years to get through it before we can amend out or do whatever. But those are the main items we're looking at from the MJC. Sam Steele, in comments, updates?
Thanks, everybody. I'm just on my way to a doctor's appointment. I'm just getting over some surgery, but I'm glad to be a part of this group, and look forward to future collaboration with everybody. And so I don't want to take up too much time, but thanks for everybody for having me join.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Sam, and hopefully quick recovery with everything that's going on. So, all right, appreciate that. Good job pulling all that together in a quick period of time. You know, we talked a lot about kind of at the beginning of this meeting. It did take up a lot of time, just kind of seeing where our current format is and what updates look like. So as we move forward, you know, we'll come up with efficient ways of doing this. And any of your input is good. Yes, sir. Jeff, you got your hand up.
Guys, just something on there, and sort of Sam sort of mentioned it too about getting more international involvement. It's great face to face. Just you also got to remember, you know, you guys have got a time difference east and west. To engage our membership, there's other time zones. Like, you know, for me, it's 7 a.m. Thursday here. For our members in Dubai, it's 1 a.m. in the morning. Our members in the UK, it's 10 p.m. in the evening. In New Zealand, they're having morning smoker on Thursday. So, you know, some of the timings of those events just prohibit, you know, or make it very difficult to encourage people to get out of bed at 2 a.m. to chime into some of the events that go around. So, you know, that is a complexity that we have, a major complexity that we have, even just getting our group together for our meetings. So, you know, I know it's probably not in the forefront of your mind, but when you think about those timings, you know, you might want to consider, if it's a topic that's of global interest, that the timings might need to reflect that.
Jeff, that's well said. I got an email from Judy to help out on one of the upcoming soft skills webinars, and all of a sudden I got an email and it's got a chart on there for the dates and the times. I'm thinking, okay, what day is this? What time is it? And then I finally figured out, oh my Lord, these are multiple time zones across the world. I'm trying to figure out, when do I fit in? It's impressive.
Yeah, I think, you know, to add to that, that's kind of the world that I live in, which is fine. This is what I've asked for. But, you know, I think if one of the things that we're looking at for the webinars this year is to is to change the timings of them so that if we're targeting participation from, Europe, then we might have it in the morning Eastern time, which means that we probably won't get anyone from Australia and New Zealand joining. And so if we shift them around, and I think that that is what the pandemic task force has done, because there are a number of global participants in that also. But, for this upcoming one, we've decided to have Australia and Singapore. And so it has to be in our evening. It doesn't start until 5 or 5:30 Eastern. But that allows for someone from Singapore to participate at not a horribly ungodly hour.
Yeah, and great points. And Jeff, I appreciate you bringing that up. Just very briefly, I know appreciate everybody for hanging on this long. And to that point, early in COVID, if you're kind of into anybody, my daughter's works off Broadway, so the arts are a big thing. And, some of the musical people, the singers and some of the orchestras, what they did is they actually created video segments of, let's say, a question, and they answered a question, but they sang a song or played an instrument in a video segment, and then they plugged that all in. Somebody had to, so Bill Nash and Carl would have to be the ones and Judy would have to be like editing these so that they went seamlessly. But, as absurd as that sounds, the fact that we are really operating globally, and you guys are most definitely, it's not out of the realms of reality that you just kind of create these segments and add them to it. So just something to think about. I appreciate everybody's input. And so we did the Rochester update. Everybody's got that. Any last minute items that we may not have covered, or any interest from anybody?
Mark, please tell me again, your dinner on Saturday at Rochester starts at what time?
It's, I don't think we have a time yet. So we got an open room from 3 to 5 for CNO. On Saturday, we've got an open room from 3 to 5. The dinner would be after that. And I don't think I didn't take a note that we actually have hammered down the time. I think usually we do 6:30-ish or something like that. So just roughly, and I think what Carl mentioned is that he and Bill and Ed were going to get together and fine tune the things. So I think once we do that, we'll get that and be able to send it out to everyone.
That's correct.
Very good. Well, once again, great conversation. Yes,
Doug has his hand up.
Oh, Doug, sorry, I didn't see you on there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to weigh in on when we're talking about the tall building collapse issues. There's a bunch of bills working through the Florida legislature now, so there will be Florida law in the next few weeks that will go into effect on July 2nd. Maybe I'll send that out to Bill or somebody to share with folks. But the latest one, they're changing the condo law. They're looking at the reserves that condominiums are required to possess based on the age. They're putting it on the building official to notify people when their 30 years is up or their 25 years are up. So it's modeled largely on what you see currently in Dade and Broward County in Miami, but it's coming. We're already staffing up for it. We're ready to go. And I think the ICC model will be a good guide for folks on how to go about recertifying it. But it's gonna happen either way, with or without it. It looks like now. So,
if you can please get that out to everybody quickly, because I kid you not, within a week, 10 days, our councilmen were all calling saying, "Hey, what are we doing?" Well, yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Very interesting.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a lot of weight. They're going after the condo associations and condo law. They're going after the LCAMs in the LCAM law, the Licensed Condo Association managers. They're directing us to put penalties in place to go after these folks. And then we're going to theoretically adopt the ICC model or whatever model we want to adopt to make sure the inspections. They're getting pretty comprehensive. I don't like them writing codes from the legislator. That's not a good way to do it, but I'll send you a link right now if somebody wants to redistribute it. Should I send it to you, Bill?
Fine.
Or send it to Mark?
Yeah, send it. Yep. You can send it to me or Bill or both.
I'll send it to both you guys.
We'll get it out.
Okay. That's it. Sorry, I didn't.
Thanks, Doug. No, I appreciate that. Okay.
That'll be scary seeing code come out of your legislature, because ours is nasty when it does that, when it comes out.
They love to do it. They drive me crazy. They do these carve outs for special interests. It's
Awful,
bad habits.
awful.
All right, everyone. Thank you again very much. We don't really have an official meeting, so I'm just gonna, if nobody has any objections, I'm gonna call this meeting to a close.
Sounds good.
Thank
See
you
you
all.
guys.
We'll see you next time. Email me if you got any questions.
Yep.
Thanks, Mark.